This message comes from NPR sponsor Sony Pictures Classics. I'm Still Here from filmmaker Walter Salas is the true story of one family's resilience when a dictatorship attempts to tear them apart. Led by a Golden Globe winning performance by Fernanda Torres, now playing select cities.
Hello, hello. I'm Brittany Luce, and you're listening to It's Been a Minute from NPR, a show about what's going on in culture and why it doesn't happen by accident. This is one of those interviews where my parents are going to be like, oh my God, you talked to her.
Aw.
That's right, Mom and Dad. Today's guest is somebody you know I have been a fan of for a long time. Back in 2010, I bought the CD of Chamber Music Society. It's been that long. I bought the CD. I went to a Borders. Oh my gosh.
Whoa.
And bought it.
Flashback.
Today's guest is jazz singer, multi-instrumentalist, and composer Esperanza Spalding. She's a 2025 Grammy Award nominee for Best Jazz Vocal Album, but she's no stranger to that golden statue. You might remember her as the winner of the 2011 Grammy for Best New Artist, beating out the likes of Florence and the Machine, Mumford & Sons, Drake, and Justin Bieber.
I take this honor to heart so sincerely, and I'll do my damnedest to make a whole lot of great music for all of you.
You are actually our third Grammy Best New Artist winner to appear on this show behind EGOT winner John Legend and one of your fellow nominees this year for Best Jazz Vocal Album, Samara Joy.
Luscious company.
I wonder, though, when it comes to the Best New Artists, is there a club, a group chat, a secret society, anything that we need to know about?
I mean, if there is, I'm not in it. As far as I know.
As far as... Since then, Esperanza has become a music luminary with a sound that defies genres. She's performed with legends like Stevie Wonder and Patti LaBelle and was personally selected by Barack Obama to perform at the Nobel Peace Prize ceremonies. Her latest project combines her distinctive sound with that of Brazilian jazz icon Milton Nascimento on their latest album, Milton and Esperanza. The album is truly the best of both worlds, a love letter to the style and sound that has made Nascimento a jazz icon over the past half century, and the complex experimental melodies Esperanza has made her signature over the past 2 decades.
Aw.
How did each of you first learn of the other person?
Apparently, the way he heard about me is Herbie Hancock told him.
That's a good word to get put in for you.
Wild. I was like, what the universe? What dream have I stumbled into? Yeah, Herbie apparently told him, hey, there's this girl who plays bass and sings and composes, and she wants to meet you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I heard about him for the first time on Wayne Shorter's Native Dancer. It was like this force that was so powerful, wrapped its arms around my bone marrow and was like, you're always going to be a part of this sound, and this sound is always going to be a part of you. It just became this luminous letter in my musical DNA, you know. Yeah, that's how I first encountered him.
That initial encounter led to a collaboration on Esperanza's 2010 album, Chamber Music Society. For Esperanza, it was a lesson in humility. I loved the album. I even got my dad into it, and I ended up going with my parents to see you at the Detroit show that you did on that tour back then. One of the songs on that album called Apple Blossom was my introduction to your collaborative relationship with Milton Nascimento.
Mm-hmm.
And from above, she's always watching, but her body lies 'neath the apple blossoms.
It's a gorgeous song. It's about the life cycles of both nature and love.
Mm-hmm.
What about working together on that song made you realize that Milton would become a friend and collaborator for life?
Well, the grace and patience that he extended to me, this young little something something who had this idea, had this song, which I really struggled to finish the lyrics on that. And I couldn't finish them until I think the night before.
Oh, wow.
So really, he received the lyrics the day we got into the studio. And that is like a really unfair position to put him in on that. And I could tell he was frustrated and unhappy and concerned, like, you know, he wouldn't have a chance to really like wrap his mind and his heart and his pronunciation practice around those lyrics.
Right.
And what I really appreciated is he let me know, like he didn't hide the fact he was frustrated and still brought loving kindness and generosity and joy and his full self, you know, to that recording session. And that I feel is a very rare combination.
Yeah.
That integrity and that care of like, I'm going to let you know how this affected me because it affected me in an unpleasant way. And I'm not going to take that out on you. I'm here to do the beautiful thing. So let's do it. And that's a really particular way to get to know somebody that they're frustrated with you, you know?
Yeah.
And I it's like, oh, we went through that part of our friendship, you know, already. We got it out the way.
I mean, I have to be honest, I had never actually heard of Milton before your song Together back in 2010. But because you introduced me to him, I learned so much more about Black Brazilian musicians like Milton and Gilberto Gil. Like, talk to me about the Black Brazilian musical influences on this album and key moments where they stand out to you.
I love this question. This is hard to speak directly to, but there's fury, there's terror, there's grief inside of all that beauty. And we don't have to wonder what that terror and grief and fury is about. It's about centuries of profound brutality exacted on Black peoples in that country and in the country of the United States. And as much as we love the beautiful grooves and the melodies and the energy, there's a force in that music that maybe your brain doesn't know the history of what happened in Brazil, but something in you knows I'm somehow involved in that. Somehow this is also about me. And I don't mean that in like I want to destroy you, it's about you. But it's asking that we really feel the truth, you know, feel something of the truth of what happened there that is still reverberating through the lives of Black people. And it's still reverberating through the lives of non-Black people because it's a system that everyone becomes involved and complicit in to this day. So all that to say, as glorious and wondrous as João Gilberto and Carlos Jobim are, period, I also can witness the discrepancy or the disparity between a more European presenting, at least let's say that, representation of Brazilian music compared to Black cultural Afro-Brazilian music.
But I also felt like throughout this album, you and Milton were having like a diasporic conversation.
Say it. Yes. I love that. Nobody has uplifted that yet. I appreciate it.
Oh, I mean, to me, it felt very clear. I mean, it felt like you were blending your approaches to Black music together and finding like the tension where you all had different approaches was great. But then also there were some points where it was like clear you were coming from the same place. Would you describe it as like a diasporic conversation or some other way? And talk to me about how each of you communicated and what you were trying to say to each other.
I really love that. What we wanted to, convey was really this love. It's pretty simple. It's love. It's that magical embrace and sense of support and accompanying presence of love.
The music for me is basically friendship, love, children, ocean, the life.
We both feel very tuned into the way that music can deliver that, really efficiently and really comprehensively. So my job coming in was to create these environments for Milton's voice and for me and for the other musicians where that palpable love, that vibrant love that we have for each other, for this world, for the music, would just easily be conveyed.
Corações me aqueceu agora lembrar de você. Amizade é dom que precisa merecer.
And when you speak about the diasporic connection, I think about the often, I think, under-addressed connection between Brazil and, let's say, the United States. Mm-hmm. There are very, very similar socio-political contexts inside of which these diasporic beings are creating the medicine they need, are creating the sacred sanctuaries that they need to just endure, to invigorate themselves, remind themselves, empower themselves, to strategize their liberation in untenable circumstances, and create the kind of joy that helps you envision other possibilities. And all of those factors, you could say, exist inside of Brazilian music in its history, Black Brazilian music in its history specifically, and the music of African ancestor people in the United States.
Coming up, wise words passed from a jazz icon to a jazz legend in the making.
He had this phrase, oh my God, it's like one of the best things I've ever heard. Well, I only heard him say it once, but I have repeated it many times, so it's become a phrase of his.
Stick around.
This message comes from Charles Schwab. When it comes to managing your wealth, Schwab gives you more choices, like full-service wealth management and advice when you need it. You can also invest on your own and trade on Thinkorswim. Visit schwab.com to learn more. This message comes from NPR sponsor REI Co-op. You can't make more time, but when you opt outside, you can make the most of it. So make time for those early mornings, last-minute trips, and timeless views. For small victories, big fails, and everything in between. And when you're ready, REI has the gear, clothing, classes, and advice to help you make the most of your time out there. Visit your local REI Co-op or rei.com/opt-outside. This message comes from BetterHelp. Every January brings you 365 blank pages waiting to be filled. What do you want your 2025 story to be? Therapy can help you craft the next chapters with purpose. BetterHelp offers therapy 100% online with a diverse network of over 30,000 therapists worldwide. Visit BetterHelp, HELP.com/NPR today to get 10% off your first month. This message comes from Intuit TurboTax. Now, Taxes is matching with an expert backed by tech to get you the most money back at TurboTax.com. Experts only available with TurboTax Live. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
You all were creating across generations as well, and not just with each other. I mean, the guest spots on this album also span generationally. Paul Simon, Leon LaHavas, the great Diane Reeves.
Come
they
on.
all and so many more people all appear on this album. I wonder what kind of intergenerational conversation is being had on this album.
A natural one. I love you uplifting that. It's like a very broad age range on the album. And it's really because that's how our music communities work, you know. That's, I hope, how all of our communities work, that we're in touch with and connected to and familiar with so many different ages of people. And whatever the question of the task or the need is at hand, we can kind of scan and reach out in multiple directions, you know, and whoever ends up being assembled to respond to the question or need at hand will kind of represent all the will be like a representative swath of the community at large.
That's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful way of thinking about it, that this is simply your community, and these are the conversations that you are having musically and otherwise anyway.
Yeah, I have been using the word mentor a lot as like a sign of respect. And I was talking with my friend Harmony Holiday, who's a fantastic poet and author and journalist. And She was talking about how she doesn't like to use the word mentor because the elders in her life are her friends. And she says, I think of mentor like they owe me something, or like, their affiliation with me is going to somehow lift my name, or, it endorses what I'm doing. She's like, I like to think of the people that I know who are elders as my friends, and I'm beholden to them the way that I would be beholden to a friend. Like, ultimately, that's the intergenerational conversation we're having of just like, let's be good friends to each other and share the warmth and beauty of that reality in practice.
You and Milton, as you brought up, you both share a connection to the late, great Wayne Shorter. In the 70s, Milton and Wayne collaborated on Native Dancer, as you mentioned. And decades later, you and Wayne collaborated on a jazz opera shortly before his passing. The album is dedicated to him. Where do you feel or hear his influence most on this album?
Well, first of all, I feel Wayne's influence and presence in this record by the sheer fact that I agreed to do it, He had this phrase, oh my God, it's like one of the best things I've ever heard. Well, I only heard him say it once, but I have repeated it many times, so it's become a phrase of his. He said, the trick is you have to throw yourself into the ocean even if you can't swim. Otherwise, you have to be shoved in even though you can swim.
Oh, I'm taking that to therapy. That's a good one.
You know what I'm saying? It's so deep. And he would always say, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Always encouraging you to go for broke. That is a sentiment or an approach or a philosophy of life that has really been nurtured and developed in me through my knowing of Wayne, my relationship to Wayne. And so there it is.
One last question. What's a song from this album that you feel is a perfect blend of your musical approaches? Yours and Milton's.
I think Outubro.
I love that song.
I think that really sounds like, oh yeah, that's Milton letting Esperanza have her way with his song.
Que eu vou contar. Certa moça me falando alegria.
De repente ressurgiu.
Minha história está contada. Vou me despedir.
Even the way that we came to the arrangement in the studio together and the play between Milton's voice and my voice in the outro, this like endless outro.
Minha história está contada. Vou me despedir.
To me, it sounds like a, that's them, I mean, by them, I mean Milton and me.
Well, Esperanza, thank you so much for this conversation. This was so beautiful. And
Thank you.
Congratulations on your nomination. And best of luck.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your year and life.
Thank you. You too. I love that. I'll take that. That was Grammy Award nominee for Best Jazz Vocal Album, Esperanza Spalding. You can hear her collaboration with Milton Nascimento in full on their album, Milton and Esperanza. And one more thing before I go. We're working on a series about loneliness, and we want to hear from you. What does loneliness look like for you? How did you come to realize it was a problem? And have you taken any steps to foster more connection in your life? If you're 18 or older, send us a voice memo to ibam@npr.org to tell us more. We're especially interested in stories from men and moms, but we'd love to hear from everyone and anyone else too. That's ibam@npr.org. This episode of It's Been a Minute was produced by
Corey Antonio Rose.
Barton Girdwood.
This episode was edited by
Jasmine Romero.
Our executive producer is
Verilyn Williams.
Our VP of programming is
Yolanda Sanguini.
All right, That's all for this episode of It's Been a Minute from NPR. I'm Brittany Luce. Talk soon.
This message comes from Warby Parker, prescription eyewear that's expertly crafted and unexpectedly affordable. Glasses designed in-house from premium materials starting at just $95, including prescription lenses. Stop by a Warby Parker store near you.
This message comes from NPR sponsor Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. AI needs lots of speed and computing power. So how do you compete without costs spiraling? Upgrade to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OCI is the blazing fast and secure platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI workloads. Now, till the end of March 31st, 2025, new U.S. customers with a minimum financial commitment can cut their current cloud bill in half. See if your company qualifies at oracle.com/NPR.
This message comes from Bombas. Their slippers are designed with cushioning, so every step feels marshmallowy soft. Plus, for every item purchased, Bombas donates to someone in need. Go to bombas.com/NPR and use code NPR for 20% off your first order.